go. Are we good?
Yep.
All right.
Whew. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Fly With Us podcast. This podcast is bringing the art of conversation, self-love, mental health care and protection, life lessons, love lessons, and everything in between. Today we're going to talk about letting yourself out of the prison of your mind. I'm Lady Bounce.
And I'm A Slate. Let's get free, y'all.
Let's get free. Let's get free.
Okay, so where we at this week? What are we talking about?
Well, we have a lot going on, both in the world and personally.
Mm-hmm.
So, as we talked about before, I have some children that are close to me. They're not children, but they're children to me, that are close to me that are currently incarcerated.
And my son is incarcerated.
Your son is incarcerated. So I have my friend's son and one of my, he's not my student anymore, but a student at my school that I'm close to is currently incarcerated. Of course, my niece is also incarcerated. And I write them every week.
Okay, can we get ages in this? Okay, we have to get names, ages.
Okay, so my niece is 25, and she is incarcerated for drug trafficking.
Okay.
And her release date is 2024.
How long has she been there?
2 years as of right now.
Wow. Okay.
So, if something should happen and things not go right, which we're not going to put that in the air, then her release date is 2026.
Okay.
But we're not going to put that in here.
Cancel.
No, we're going to cancel that. My friend's son was with a father figure. The father figure committed a burglary and had my friend's son assist. So he is currently incarcerated. He just turned 18.
Wow.
They were supposed to move him to a different facility because where he is, you can't be 18 and be there for people younger than 18. He was 16 when he was incarcerated. Right.
Okay.
They were supposed to. But they have decided, and his birthday was just last week, but they have now decided that they're not going to move him. He's going to stay where he is because he only has a year and a half left. Ashe. Because the place where they're going to move him to is further away, and it's already a nice little drive for his mom to get there to see him when she does.
So it would be a hardship for her.
It would have been a real hardship. And for him as well, too, because nobody goes to see him. And so if she can't get there, then he got nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then for my student who's not my student, he is in jail on a probation violation, but he was with the two 17-year-olds who got killed from being in the abandoned garage, which was not abandoned, but that whole story where all the details are really fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
And originally he was being held on a trespassing charge. They dropped the trespassing charge, and now he's being held on probation violation because he had a previous charge of armed robbery and burglary. So his next court date is in a few weeks, and we don't know what's going to happen because since he is now 19, they can hold him for how long they want to because he chose to violate his probation. However, if you know anything about 18 and 19-year-olds, they've been on this planet for 19 years, but they're not adults by far.
Absolutely. My son is currently incarcerated on a robbery charge as well. It's not an armed robbery charge, robbery nonetheless. And he is 22 now. He was 21 when he went. He was 22 first time ever being in trouble. And he is currently about to be bound over from a minimum security prison to a higher level security prison, which is, he's in Marion, about to go to Ross Correctional Institution in Chillicothe. Which is one of the prisons that is on 2017's top 10 worst prisons in Ohio. So
aside from the obvious, how do you feel about that?
I feel that I need to keep myself free mentally. Hence why my hair is locked, why I started my locks. I started my locks to free my hair. So of course it's covered now, but to free my hair and to always be cognizant of the fact that I gotta keep my mental state free. Because then I can see him free. I do my best not to feel. I work hard to think, to constantly think. If I sit and feel, I will be depressed. I will be withdrawn. I will be manic. I will resort back to a lot of mentally ill states that I am very familiar with, and I work really hard not to do that. So that's how I feel, girl. I think. So yeah.
So how do you continue to do that? How do you keep doing it? How do you get up and just you go about your day?
It's really constant work in progress. When I first found out they were moving, where they were about to move him, I cried. I was upset. I was angry. I called Columbus. I called his name is not even spelled right in the system. Right. So if you don't even care about the spelling of his name, why would you care about his mental state? I cried when I went to visit my son. He just stared at me, and I could see something was happening to him mentally. I smiled and cried at the same time, and he just kept smiling at me. Because I'm like, why are you still smiling? It makes me happy to see you smile, but why are you smiling? After being in a hole for a month and a half. And it's been proven that after 3 days, everybody hears voices. Right. Okay. So, yeah, all that bothered me. I'm already emotional right now. So, yeah, I've had a lot of emotions, but I have to constantly stay present, stay in the now, and think about what it is. Here's the reality. He's in prison. Only by what we see. Is he free here? I don't know yet. But when I get JPEGs or emails that say things like, if you're stressed, you're stressing yourself. I told you I'm good. I'm my father's son. Wow. You need to have more faith in me. Wow. I can only take it for what it's worth. I can only take it as it is. It is what it is, and what it ain't, it won't ever be. Anything else I attempt to make it, I create. Right. So I take it as, sure, he may be behind prison walls right now, but he's freer than I am. If I'm trapping myself in, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's this going to be? What's that? Right. So who's really in prison? So we go back to the prison of our mind. So that gives me a little more reassurance, not assuming, right, and not worrying, which it does happen. Sometimes you forget you a supernatural being of godliness, right? Right. And you get to your human side and you get to get all in your feelings, right? And you get to be, I'm tripping. This how I can cope, right? So you got to kind of do your best to pull yourself out of it. Well, at least that's what I got to do. And then to have the kids.
Right, and that's what I was about to ask you. First, how do they feel about it? Like, what do they say? Or do they say anything? Because you have boys and they kind of like, what's up? I ain't got no feelings.
Right. I have my 17-year-old who is very much like my son that is in prison. He is very quiet, very smart, very strategic, and thinks everything through, very passionate, and very tenderhearted. He lets me know how he feels through his music. His rap talks about his brothers. I mean, it's very hard. It's very raw. It talks about prison. It talks about injustice. It talks about anger. So I know these are some of his feelings, but it also talks about, Mama, I told you I'm gonna make it up out of here. And then he has other music that is a little more uplifting. So it seems like he's picked up in his mind, I have a greater responsibility to my family. Because my brother's not here, I gotta make it up out here. I gotta show her better than she's ever seen. I gotta show myself that I'm better. He always constantly reassures me I'm not gonna do what they did. Not because he's angry with his brothers, but because he wants me to know I have my own mind. And I've been paying attention. You know, and same for my son in prison. He said, I'm not going to do what my oldest brother did. So they're all learning from each other. My youngest son, he wanted to go visit, and we went to visit, and for some reason, I didn't know that we had to do visitation forms at every prison they go to. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to go see him, where my other son's like, I don't want to go see him like that. Right. And then my oldest son, he doesn't go. So you don't know how anybody's truly feeling, but they're doing what they need to do for themselves. They're doing what they need to do for themselves. They're going to school, they're keeping their grades together, they're playing their sports. Do they write? No. Do they want a JPay? No. My oldest son does, but the younger ones no. When I do say go to the object space and light the candle, put positive thoughts in there, I'm not going to say anything. I said, that's fine, as long as you think it. And then when we get the message like he's good, I can see it on their face. Yeah, that's okay. It's okay. She might be on the sun with this silly object thing.
That's so object. And
yeah,
when you were talking about not going to see him, my husband has a nephew who is also in prison, and I have not been to see him. He has been in prison now for 15 years, and I have not been to see him ever. I do write him, but I can't go see him. For one, we're like the same age. Like, he literally is like a year, maybe 2 years older than me. So, it used to be like a joke when I met my husband and his nieces and nephews that were like grown, were calling me auntie. And I was like, whoa, what you're not gonna do is be calling me auntie, because then people will be like, y'all the same age. So we used to have that playful banter back and forth when he'd be like, Auntie Nikki. Know what you're not gonna do. You can call him Uncle Jay, you can call him Picky, whatever you want, but you're not gonna be calling me Auntie. So we had like this playful joke back and forth, and he was a part of our lives for a really long time. There was a time where like we were going over there every day, hanging out with him and his kids. So when he got arrested, I was like, I can't see him like that.
Yeah,
I can't. I don't want to see him like that. And even when I write him, I'm always careful, because I don't want to make it seem like life is grand on this side of the wall, but I also don't want to make it seem like life is so bad where you are. It's just right. And even when I'm writing my niece, it's the same, because I'm like, I don't want to, like, any problem that I always feel like, any problem that I'm going through out here,
it's not as bad.
It's nothing compared to what you're going through.
But see, and then for me, it's a little different, because that's my son and I'm the mother, so I still have a job to parent.
Right.
So I'm still scolding you. I'm still letting you know.
Right.
Yeah, shit's pretty sweet right now. If you would have done that, it might be a little sweet for you too.
Right.
Right. I do have to do that, because I have to still be to be real with him, and I still have to remind him that this is stuff I try to protect you from. And the system is jacked up, but I don't. For me, I can't imprison myself.
Right.
With the fight that was never intended to be won, which is the fight with the judicial system.
Right.
My fight is in getting my son to know who he is, whose he is, and what he's made of, and what's inside of him. So if it's going to take the next 1 to 4 years to get him to realize that, I'll do my part, but the rest is up to him. You know what I mean?
Right. And I feel like that, as it relates to my niece, it's harder to write her and have these conversations. And she does have a son.
That's what I was going to ask. Do any of them have children?
Yes. Jay's nephew has lots of children. He even has grandchildren now.
Wow.
And none of them go see him because they don't want to see him like that. And that's understandable, but at the same time, I wish I could impress upon them to at least go see him once. He needs your energy. He needs that love. He needs that spirit. And I'm not saying he doesn't need mine, but it's different when it's your kids and your grandkids versus your aunt-in-law. You know what I mean? I am filling out the papers to go see my niece. She's in Marysville. So when my brother's baby mama goes back and she takes her son, I'm going to go with her. I do want to see her. But it's taking me some time to wrap my head around being able to see her like that. Like, I don't want to see her and completely break down and lose.
For me, I feel it's necessary. I'm glad sometimes when I break down in front of my son, because I want them to know. Some of the situations are a little different than I heard, like the son that was with the father and got in trouble. But for those that we just got up and made a decision, like my son,
right?
You didn't do this to you. You making me do this time with you.
Right. And I was just about to say, when I'm writing my niece, I let her know that you're not doing this by yourself. I'm watching your mom hurt. I'm watching your son hurt. I'm hurting for your son because by the time you come home, he's going to be at that age where you can't tell little boys nothing.
Yeah, my son's going to be a little older too.
And I don't mean that to say as if like she'll never, rebuild that relationship. But he's gonna be like 12 or 13 when she comes home. And that's right when little boys start to smelling themselves and feeling themselves. I mean, now look at my own son. I've been in his life all this time. His father's been in his life all this time. When he turned about 13 and started smelling his little Cheerios and his weeds, we had to like really be like, dude. So I can't imagine how hard that's going to be for her when she comes home to be able to try to explain to him that the decision I made that caused me to get arrested, I was making it because I was dreaming of the money that was going to come from it. I was doing it with the mindset of providing you a better life.
This is why I'll say beautiful, the world's going to be a better place, goal and dream and hope, is that prisons were actually created to rehab and reform. It's my understanding that Ohio is supposed to be one of the better states for rehab and reform. Hey, this is what they say. This is what they say. I think it's at ODRC.gov or something like that.
I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, I'll find a link and send it to you. But supposedly, and they got this new person sitting up there who really works hard to make sure that people are getting reformed and getting help. Yes, it's a female too. But like, for example, Ross, the place where my son's going to, they're supposed to have something called an RTU unit where they'll pay attention to certain behaviors and patterns. Like my son was dealing with some depression and anxiety before he went. But they'll pay attention to these. They'll find patterns and triggers and then say, hey, this person might be suffering from this, and this. Go in there and get them. They'll be getting counseling and they'll be getting some mental health. They have an inpatient unit and get them medications and get them to where they need to be able to be successful in completing their time, and also, I guess, some type of healing or therapy that they may need. Because my son was suffering from some things that I did not believe prison was going to correct. But again, we all have our own walks.
I mean, and I guess, in theory, it sounds good.
But then when we think about the good and the bad, okay, so if you're a praying person and you want to, and if you're a person that holds yourself accountable, I asked for this. I said it. I asked for it. To the God of my understanding, I saw some things happening with my son. I saw some things changing. He was smoking weed, right? Then he went to nodding off, falling asleep a lot. What was going on with him? He grabbed me one day and was crying. So I seen some depression. I seen some addiction. I seen some things happening. And I'm like, oh my God, whatever's going on with my son, grab my son, get my son's attention, let him know that you are real, you are inside of him, you are him, he is you. And bring him up out of this so that he can be the best version of himself. I asked for this. I didn't say do it here, do it at this time,
right,
do it this way.
Or do it in this manner. So
okay. So I have to take the bitter with the sweet. He has said himself to me, well, yeah, I'm in a hole, but at least this way, I get to keep on focusing on me. And take the time I need for me.
That is a good way to look at it.
So we have to take the bitter with the sweet. With the kids, with the kids that were in the garage. My God, that's a heavy walk that I do not want to touch. The reality is, some young people lost their lives.
Yes.
The reality is, we need to pay attention to where our babies are.
Yes.
We need to be aware of what's going on, who our neighbors are. We need to open our mouths to what our eyes are seeing sometimes. And not just turn blind ears and eyes to things. No, I'm not pointing fingers or blaming. I'm always just looking for a solution because I have learned that there are no problems.
And I said the same thing, and in terms of that, situation, none of us were there.
Right, so we don't know what happened.
So when I see, people on the internet going back and forth with each other, and I'm going to give a sidebar self-care tip.
Mm-hmm.
Don't read the comments on the TV news Facebook pages, because if you read the comments on, you know, the local TV news Facebook pages when they post these stories, some of the comments are downright scary.
Write a letter and ask the questions. Ask what you want to know. Go to the source.
Well, no, I
and
mean,
you may not get the
when
answer,
I see
you
people,
may need a letter.
you know, basically people are arguing and going back and forth, you know, arguing whichever side you believe to be right and to be true. Some of the things that are being said by people right here in this community are downright scary and atrocious in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then if we come from the whole mindset of, you know, like what happened in the Oregon district and we were all, everybody loved, dating strong. So are we dating strong when it tries
Dating strong for how long?
Dating strong for how long? Dating strong when you agree with the tragedy.
Dating strong until
Dating strong when you're not. Because
but my thing is, when we're going back and forth, what the hell good is that doing for anybody?
Oh, I absolutely agree.
What is it? What is it doing? What is it solving? There's somebody right now, get mad at me, talk about it if you must. I'm going to say it because it pissed me off. Okay? To be downtown with a bullhorn, yelling, using profane language outside of a jail, you are teaching young people that this is the way to respond to injustice with ignorance. I am totally against it. I do think after years in the movement, we should have a better approach to certain things. Be mad at me if you will. I don't care. I don't care.
I don't think anybody can look at the situation logically without emotion. And that's a lot. Like you were saying, there's a way to do things.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not right. No, this isn't right. No, that's not right. You're going to encounter things throughout your life that are not right for whatever reason. They're not going to be right in your eyes. And there is a way to handle it, and there's a way to not handle it.
And like the way that this was handled by this person, I think because we're responding, or he was responding out of anger.
Yes.
Out of anger. And when you respond from emotion,
nobody hears you.
You're not even thinking.
Right.
Because all that energy that was used to yell into a bullhorn could have been used to find out which door to knock on, so you could sit at the desk across from this person in power and get something done. Okay? So, I mean, let's think anymore. Let's use our brains.
But it was like you were saying, you know, in the beginning, I have to keep thinking.
Yeah.
So that I don't.
Did you know that the most valuable piece of technology on this planet is the human mind?
You don't say.
Oh.
Girl,
and it didn't take a brain scientist to find that out. Speaking of a brain scientist,
take my time. Wait a minute. Excuse me. Where's the producer? I'd like to sit at the table because we have a problem here.
No problems, only solutions. Only solutions. I mean, so we've touched on a lot of things, a lot of personal things as far as the prison of our minds and mental states regarding loved ones and people that we know that are currently physically imprisoned. But if you are mentally and emotionally imprisoned by that situation or by any other things, be it a relationship, be it a job you don't want to be in anymore, be it a wayward child, be it your own addiction, be it a sudden change of events that's going to change the rest of your life, at least for the 18 or 19 years. Hello. Be that. Whatever it may be, let's always think and be mindful. Our mindfulness minute for the week.
Yes.
Honey. For the week. Honey. is take the good, take the bad. All right? Come on, say this for me, sister. Tik nak.
Thich Nhat Hanh.
All right. Buddhist monk and peace activist said, when you begin to understand, when you have been able to free yourself from a notion, that is enlightenment. Don't say that enlightenment is foreign to you, because you know what it is, right? If you have ever been on a long car ride, you know how good it feels to get out of the car, stretch your legs, and breathe the fresh air. Being cramped and confined gives rise to the pleasure of stretching and moving. The monotony of the highway gives rise to the pleasure of strolling even the most banal rest stop. So we go through many contrasts in life, and these contrasts keep things interesting. The trouble comes when we preference one pole over the other, when we want pleasure without pain, entertainment without boredom, agreement without dissent. Reality will simply not allow us to have anything unmixed. This evening, as you look upon your mental landscape, see if some small part of yourself does not want the good without the bad. See if you can reach a place of acceptance where you acknowledge the parts of your reality that you cannot change. I had just made a post to Facebook, a couple of posts. One was a picture of me and my fiance who's passed on in 2011. And I also posted a picture of my son who's incarcerated with his son on Facebook. And both of the posts I hashtag, thank God for the rain. Right? I'm so thankful that I have experienced the things that I have experienced in this life. Because had I not, I would not know, like the saying goes, what sunshine feels like. And you must know that pain is a byproduct of pleasure. You will never know how something good feels until you know what hurt feels like and what pain feels like. Our self-care assignment for the week, so you don't go walking around yelling and cussing it with a bullhorn, okay? I'm Joe Clark, all right? No, but I do love you, brother, that did that. I do understand the place where you are speaking from. I have been that person to speak from anger, and instead of using a bullhorn, I use a microphone to do it. So I get where you are coming from. I do know that I'm speaking from a place of experience and understanding now that there's another way to do things. With that said, I love you, brother. Let go of anger. Holding on to anger, resentment, and hostility hurts you psychologically, emotionally, and physically. Don't give over your power to have positivity in your life just to harbor a grudge. You need to find a way to move past it. Many great religious and spiritual traditions address the issue of forgiveness, reminding us that at our sacred center or core, we are inherently happy. Overcome that anger with these tips. 1, whenever you slip into a place of pain and sadness, say a blessing to yourself. 2, then say a blessing for the person who hurt you. Tell her or him in your heart, if not out loud, that you will no longer take her or him or the memory of the incident any further into your life. 3, intentionally release the anger and hurt. Say an affirmation such as, I release the anger I feel over this hurt. Forgive, bless, and release. That's the way to keep your heart and mind open and free. That is our self-care assignment for the week. And I hope that you can get free. And before or when you get free, to keep you thinking and not feeling in your feelings so much, you always got to have a little bit of brain science.
All right, so this brain science is kind of a no-brainer, but it goes about what we were talking about. A lot of people, if you are not in the situation, you don't see it. So I'm going to give it to you so you can see it, even if just from a distance. So this is the effects of incarceration on your mental health. Although jail time might seem like a distant possibility for most people, incarceration rates in the United States are steadily rising. One study published in the Journal of Pediatrics found that 41% of young adults have been arrested by the time they are 23. The U.S. Department of Justice reports that 6.6% of people serve time in prison at some point in their lives, and that statistic rises to a shocking 32% for African American men.
Wow.
More than half of the inmates are diagnosed with a mental disorder, which leads them to incarceration most of the time. As mental hospitals continue to close, mental health services remain financially out of reach for many people, and this number is going to rise. Moreover, prison itself can exacerbate pre-existing mental health issues and create new mental health challenges among those who have never experienced them. Mm-hmm. So that means you could go in with what you think is a healthy mind, and prison will bring out the unhealthiness in your mind. Mm-hmm. So, Mental health care behind bars. Jails and prisons are required to provide basic health care for inmates, but the quality of this care varies greatly from facility to facility.
Mm-hmm.
Often, prison-based mental health care focuses on stabilizing rather than treating inmates. A person experiencing hallucinations or psychosis might get medication to control the most severe symptoms, but people who have anxiety, depression, and PTSD and other mental health conditions that don't cause a radical change in your behavior may go untreated and unnoticed. Prisons rarely, if ever, get therapy or comprehensive treatment. So mental health issues that were previously controlled with medication and therapy may get much worse during their time of incarceration. Even for the most hardened criminals, prisons can be a scary place. The DOJ reports that 70,000 prisoners are sexually abused every year, and assaults, fights, and other acts of violence are common in a prison setting. But violence isn't limited to inmates. Prison guards work in a high-stress environment that can increase their likelihood of becoming violent themselves. With little hope for reporting abuse by guards, some inmates may endure verbal abuse, threats of physical violence, and even severe attacks. Women inmates, this is so sad, are at an increased risk of being sexually assaulted by jail and prison guards. This ongoing climate of trauma can cause anxiety, depression, phobias, and PTSD in prisoners who have previously had no serious mental health issues. Finally, by definition, prisoners are cut off from the rest of the world. This is why it is important. If you have a loved one incarcerated, write them, JPay them, call them, send a smoke signal, whatever you have to do.
Send pictures.
Follow the rules. Because I've had some things come back to me in the mail that I have sent to my friend's son, to my niece, and to my student. Because I wrote it in purple ink.
Yeah, send pictures on paper, not picture paper.
Right. And these are things that I didn't know. So I was glad that those things came back, so now I know. Mm-hmm. When your loved ones get out of prison, and they start to reintegrate into society, we as the people on the outside have to give them allowances.
Yeah,
to readjust. We cannot expect them to get out on Monday and by Friday they got a job, they got an apartment, they know what to do. Mm-hmm. You have to think about how fast the world changes. Mm-hmm. And when they were arrested, where the world was versus where the world is when they come out. A lot of jobs don't want to hire people who have been to prison. So they need your time, your love, and your support. Even if that means they got to lay on your couch for a little longer than you expected. Do whatever you can to help them to readjust, and don't expect it to happen overnight. There are not a lot of programs that help with that, and that is very sad and unfortunate. But in order to keep them from reoffending, we have to step out of our box. If you have the fortunate of having someone choose you to be the person that they stay with, that they go to when they get out of prison. And not look at it as a burden, which it is a burden, but the fact that when inmates are released, they ask them, where are you going?
Some of them do get to go to the halfway houses and get to try to transition.
Right, well, I mean, when they come out of like a halfway house, if they choose you, you have a responsibility.
Be mindful.
Right, so be mindful when you say, or when you get out, look me up. Because when they get out, guess who they looking up? Right. The person who said, I'm going to be there for you. And you got to be there. You have to protect your own mental health while helping them. And if you can't...
Speaking of that mental health, do yourself, your family member, your loved one, your neighbor, your community a favor. Pay attention to the signs. Imprisonment is not just walls and bars. It can be mental. Yes. As a person who has been dealing with mental illness for over 30 years, please pay attention to the signs. It is a... terrifying, debilitating place to be. And sometimes it is a silent disease that is very loud to you and sometimes to the person watching. So do pay attention to the signs to those around you and those incarcerated.
And please stop telling people to get over it.
Right. And stop telling them they're crazy.
Right. That is one of the worst things that you could say to a person who even if they experience intermittent mental health issues, is to say, you're crazy.
Because I will tell you, I'm not crazy. I am creative, boo. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So take that creativity and follow us on YouTube,
Our Twitter
and SoundCloud,
and Instagram.
and Facebook.
All right. And you can email us at flywithusla@gmail.com.
Free yourself, and the rest will follow. We'll say free your mind, and the
And
rest,
the rest will follow. All right, involved.
I like it. I'm Lady Bounce.
And I am A Slate.
We out.
Peace.